right, welcome to another exciting week of Spicer and Company. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Well, Sean, part of me feels like the election is creeping up on us. And then there's another part of me that feels like it should be tomorrow. But nonetheless, it's 100 days, a little less than 100 days away from the presidential election.
That's absolutely right. That means the Trump campaign is in full swing. I want to start off by bringing in Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, Eric Trump. Eric, thanks for being with us.
Hey, guys, great to be with you.
Hey, so I know, look, I'm not a big believer in national polls. I know they were wrong in 2016, and they don't matter because this is a battleground state. That being said, the current national polls do have President Trump, your dad, down by about 10 points. He's done a lot of great things in the last 2 weeks. What does he need to do in these final 99 days to pull ahead decisively ahead of Joe Biden?
Yeah, listen, first of all, let me just address the first thing you said. They have done this before. They're going to do it again. They do this, Sean, and you know better than anybody because you understand this world, very, very well. They do it to try and suppress fundraising. They try and do it to suppress enthusiasm. I can tell you our enthusiasm gap over Biden's isn't even close, right? I mean, it's my father's voters will go out and vote. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if it's hailing. I don't care if there's a hurricane. They're going to get out to vote. And I can tell you the same is not true of his. Second of all, you see some of the African-American support that we have this time. Rasmussen just came out with a poll that said he had 43% African-American support on among the likely voters, over 50% non-white minority support, which are, just baffling numbers, incredible numbers. And if those numbers come to be true, the election's over really before it starts. And so my father's done a great job for this country. He's dealt with unprecedented times. He built the greatest economy we've ever seen. He also has to deal with the China virus, which you wouldn't want to be dropped on anybody, quite frankly. And, he's done a great job, and he's going to get reelected. And again, they are screwing around with the polls. That's what they do. It's who these people are. And when you see them oversampling Democrats by 10, 12, 13%, that's all you need to know.
I'll tell you, on those minority poll numbers, if it's even close to those things, he's going to crush it. I mean, if he can get, the last, high water mark for African Americans is 10, 12% in recent history. If he can get anywhere close to 25, never mind 40, it'll be amazing. Eric, your father had a very hard-hitting interview with Chris Wallace a week ago where he pushed back on a lot of the narratives. But at the end of the interview, your father made it very clear Joe Biden couldn't handle an interview like he did, not just then, but pretty much does every day. Even today, he interacted with the press, getting on Air Force One. Fox News Sunday asked Joe Biden if he'd do it. He declined the invitation. It seems like the Biden strategy is to duck and hide. And the question is, how do you draw them out?
Sean, Biden called Arizona a city last week. I just want to get your viewers to understand this. He called Arizona city. It's wonderful to be with the nice people of Arizona. It's a beautiful city. This is what you're dealing with. And I'm the one person who's asked the cognitive question. I almost don't care because I think it's an important question to know before you run for president. But a month ago, Sean, he said that he's running for the United States Senate. He's running for commander in chief, the president of the United States. He said he's running for Senate, and that's one of 400 gaffes he makes every single day. It's something's off there. His handlers don't want to let him out of that basement bunker. Any question that he is asked, he's on teleprompter, and quite frankly, I think they're writing him answers on the teleprompter because every time he tries to answer a question, he looks over at the teleprompter. I don't know exactly how that works, aside from somebody spoon-feeding him, the information. And, even the questions that he does ask are pre-screened, and they're from journalists that are pre-approved. So what do you think's happening? It's not like he has a Chris Wallace asking him questions, or, it's not like he has an Acosta from CNN, yelling and berating him. He doesn't, right? And they're holding him out for a purpose. I think he's going to get eaten alive in the debates. I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. I'm really excited to actually watch them. But it's, if you're running for commander-in-chief of the United States of America, Sean, you've got to be present. And I actually almost view it as arrogant that he's willing to hide out in his basement, that he's willing to not take questions, and he's trying to take it for granted. And, Hillary Clinton, frankly, did that in a lot of ways, right? She didn't campaign in certain states and other things. She ended up losing the election because of that. And I predict the same thing is going to happen here.
So there's no question in your mind that mental fitness should be an issue in this campaign.
Sean, there is no question in my mind that mental fitness should be an issue in this campaign. No, of course not. He called Arizona a city? Arizona's a big state, and it's a state that, frankly, he needs to win. It's not a city.
No.
Mental
And
fitness is a big part of this. And when he can't get through a coherent sentence without making some disastrous blunder, yes, I do. And Sean, you know what? You sat up at that podium in the White House, and you did a great job. Could you imagine the questions you would have taken from the media had my father made 1/100th of the questions, made 1/100th of the mistakes that Biden makes on a daily basis? It's Article 25, it's this, it's that, whatever they would have called out at the time. But they wouldn't have let it go. I mean, the double standard and hypocrisy is incredible.
it is, Eric. That's the thing that's so fascinating. Just today, he wrote an op-ed under his own name that says Joe Biden will do this, Joe Biden will do this, Joe Biden. And I tweeted this out and I said either he didn't realize it was supposed to go out under his name or somebody screwed this up. But the idea, you're right, it's day after day and it gets washed away. No one wants to talk about this. And I've worked alongside your father. He's up early, he stays up late. There's no question about his cognitive ability. And yet here you have the media and everyone else ducking the reality of what's going on. I've got nothing against Joe Biden as a person. I really don't. I think he's probably a very nice man. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. This is the commander in chief, the person that's going to have the nuke codes. And we don't want to have a discussion about whether he's up to it.
That's right. That's right. And I think he has other questions to answer, Sean. I mean, the guy has been in government. Listen, I'm not the oldest guy in the world, but I'm also not like quite a spring chicken, right? I mean, the guy's been in government far longer than I've been alive. I mean, think about that between the Senate and obviously, I mean, he's been in government longer than I've been alive. Think about that notion. Then he blames all the country's problems on Donald Trump, who's been there for 3.5 years, working out the mess that, he created and many administrations, frankly, created before him. I mean, this is a guy who gave $150 billion off to, Iran, a country that hates our guts, including $1.8 billion in cash, right? He and Obama had the slowest recovery coming out of a depression, in the history of a country. The GDP was growing at like, 0.9%. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but, most of their administration, especially, frankly, ethically, many of the things that they did, the investigations, which are kind of coming to light right now, and people are seeing through, the corruption of that administration is something to be seen. But his economic track record and, frankly, his questionable judgment. Who gives $150 billion to Iran? I mean, to me, that's disqualifying as being, for being the president of the United States. You just can't. You should not be allowed to be president of the United States if you give $150 billion to a country that, frankly, can't stand us, hates our guts, and probably use that money for very bad activities around the world that targeted Americans and other things. And it's. It should stop there.
No, you're absolutely. I mean, they probably used that money, like you said, against us. We gave them money, which they probably redirected towards us ourselves. Eric, in 2016, your campaign, your dad used social media unbelievably effectively, right?
Sure.
He used it as a tool to speak directly to the American people, and the campaign was able to tailor messages to different people. Are you concerned that Facebook, YouTube, Twitter have started to recognize that their platforms were beneficial to your father and to your campaign, and they continue to put up barricades that will prevent the use of them the same way in 2020?
Sean, it's an incredibly smart question, and frankly, the answer is, of course, yes. I mean, just think about Apple. You have 100 million Apple, users in the country when it comes to iPhones, right? Carrying around these little gizmicks, they're great. The problem is the Apple News, if you think about it, right? It's all curated from one person, Silicon Valley, probably a young guy, probably very, alt left in terms of his political dealing. And guess what? He gets to pick every single story that shows up on that feed every single day, right? So he's literally spoon-feeding content to 100 million people carrying around those devices in their pocket. Many of these people don't have cable news, Sean. You know that as well as anybody. Many people rely on that one little instrument as being kind of their source to the outside world. Yeah. A lot of people don't have cable TV, nor do they want it in their homes. And so they see that, they get their news, and that obviously resonates across the way. So you do have people in Silicon Valley that do have their fingers on the scales. You see that with Twitter as well, where they're trying to, Twitter is trying to censor the commander-in-chief of the United States. You see that with Amazon. Jeff Bezos, right, obviously owns Amazon, hates my father, so he buys the Washington Post. If you have a congressman or a senator that does something that's pro-Amazon and his money-making machine, guess what? He writes a beautiful article and he puts them on the front cover and He wines and dines them, and guess what? They'll always vote for him, no matter what the legislation, no matter how bad it is for our nation. On the flip side, if he doesn't like you, i.e., my father, because my father will be tough on a guy like that, then guess what? He'll go after him. He'll go after me. He'll go after his family, right? That should not be allowed. That's not what the media is supposed to be. We have a fundamental right in this country of freedom of speech. Guess what? It's our First Amendment right. I mean, there is nothing more important to the country than our freedom of speech. And literally, you do have Silicon Valley that has their finger on the balance. And the Republicans, quite frankly, the Republicans and Democrats have to do something about it, because it could as easily happen to the Democrats, even though it's going in one direction right now. But you better believe our government needs to do something about this, Sean.
Absolutely. We're going to have Brendan Carr on later this week from the FCC to talk about this, because you're right. I mean, we talked about all this bogus interference in 2016, and yet this is going on right beneath our noses with U.S. companies. So I appreciate your insight, Eric. Thank you for joining us. Best of luck on the campaign trail, and stay safe.
Thanks a lot, Sean. It's great to be with you.
All right, you too. Thank you very much. All right, still to come. If you've ever wondered how to destroy America, I don't know why you would, but you want to do it in 3 easy steps. Ben Shapiro is here to tell us how and why we all need to be worried about the push to rewrite history. Plus, mental fitness, as Eric just said, is a big topic ahead of the election. And the media just can't get enough of it. Find out why one of our guests says it shouldn't be a campaign issue. You're going to want to see this.